Think about the walkway leading up to your front door right now.
Yeah, just picture it.
Right. If you're like most people, you probably view it purely as a transit corridor. Just a basic engineering solution to get you from the car to the house without muddying your shoes.
Exactly. Just point A to point B.
Yeah, you map it out, pour some concrete, or maybe lay down some stepping stones, and you just call it a day. But what if that purely utilitarian approach is actually a missed opportunity?
Oh, it absolutely is.
What if your walkway, instead of just being a strip of pavement, could actively lower your blood pressure before you even turn your doorknob?
That's the dream, right?
It is. And today, we are looking at the notes of an author named Ang. Specifically, we're diving into part 927 of their gardening journal, which was published today, June 16, 2026.
Part 927.
I know, right? I think it's fair to say that anyone who writes 927 separate notes on landscaping is officially obsessed.
Well, yeah, but that level of obsession is exactly what produces the kind of brilliant micro-level observations we're going to explore today. I mean, a casual weekend hobbyist doesn't reach entry number 927. This text comes from someone who has spent a massive, almost staggering amount of time just sitting quietly in outdoor spaces.
Just really observing things.
Yes. Analyzing not just how plants look, but how they actually alter human behavior and mood.
Yeah, and the entry we have our hands on today is actually quite brief, but it is incredibly dense with sensory detail. It focuses on one highly specific landscaping choice, which is using clumping bamboo instead of trees for walkway borders.
Which sounds simple, but it's really not.
No, not at all. And I want to point out right away that this isn't just a simple DIY gardening tip for your weekend. It's a masterclass in designing what Ang calls a sensory-rich environment.
Absolutely.
Our mission for this deep dive is to extract the spatial, the sonic, and the visual lessons hidden inside this short text so we can understand exactly what makes a space feel atmospheric.
I love that word, atmospheric.
Me too. Okay, let's unpack this. Starting with the literal physical problem Ang is trying to solve here, we're looking at how to properly border a walkway.
Right, creating that edge.
And the text explicitly states that, compared to planting trees, bamboo is a much better alternative for these borders.
Well, to understand why, we have to look at the psychological and physical reality of what a walkway demands from us.
Okay, what do you mean?
By definition, a path is a space meant for movement. You cannot linger indefinitely. The architecture of a path literally compels you forward.
Right, you're trying to get to the door.
Exactly. Now, trees are universally beloved in landscaping, right? I mean, they offer shade, they provide a sense of majesty, they anchor the visual weight of a yard.
Everyone wants a big, beautiful tree.
But physically speaking, trees are heavy, sprawling organisms. They have thick, solid trunks.
Yeah.
Beneath the ground, they possess massive root systems that need to constantly expand in search of water and nutrients.
Right, they take up so much space.
And above ground, they have these wide, expansive canopies that stretch outward in every direction.
We've all had that experience, right? Walking down a beautiful, tree-lined neighborhood sidewalk, only to find ourselves dodging low-hanging, wet branches after a rainstorm.
Right, the worst.
Or constantly tripping over pavement that has been completely warped and shattered by oak roots.
Yes.
Like, it looks fantastic in a real estate brochure, but actually walking down that path feels like navigating an obstacle course. You're constantly having to adjust your body to accommodate the plant.
And that physical accommodation creates a subtle, almost subconscious psychological tension.
Really?
Tension. Yeah. Think about it. When you walk down a narrow path bordered by massive tree trunks, the physical weight of that wood creates a sense of enclosure.
Oh, I see.
And human beings generally do not enjoy feeling physically constrained. We have an evolutionary preference for spaces that offer some degree of shelter, sure, but still allow for clear, unobstructed movement.
So we don't want to feel trapped.
Exactly. When you place a sprawling tree right on the margin of a narrow walking space, that sense of cozy enclosure can very quickly tip over into feeling claustrophobic.
That's right.
Ang has correctly identified that a pathway requires a boundary to define the space, but it does not require a barricade that punishes you for walking through it.
I think of it like interior design. Planting trees along a narrow walkway is like putting overstuffed couches in a narrow hallway.
That is a great way to put it.
It might look incredibly cozy and inviting in theory, maybe sitting there in a furniture catalog, but in practical, everyday reality, you are entirely blocking the flow of traffic.
Right, you can't actually use the space.
Yeah, you have to squeeze past the armrests, you're constantly bumping your shins, and the hallway completely loses its functional purpose, just because the objects bordering it are consuming all the breathable space.
That analogy captures the spatial conflict perfectly. A tree simply demands too much territory for a space that is supposed to be dedicated to human transit.
Wait, I need to stop you there,
Oh, okay.
because I'm looking at Eng's solution here, and my brain is throwing up some major red flags.
Let me guess. The bamboo.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whenever I hear someone casually suggest, just plant some bamboo, my mind immediately goes to absolute horror stories.
The neighborhood invasions, yeah.
We've all heard the cautionary tales, right?
Yeah.
Someone plants a little bamboo screen, and 3 years later, it has completely invaded the neighbor's yard, torn up the driveway, and required a literal excavator to remove.
It happens.
Isn't a wildly invasive weed exactly what we are trying to avoid when building a peaceful walkway?
What's fascinating here is how Aang anticipates that exact fear with one very specific, very vital adjective.
Okay.
The text doesn't just say use bamboo. Aang specifies clumping varieties of bamboo.
Clumping varieties.
Yes, that biological distinction is the linchpin of this entire design philosophy. The horror stories you were thinking of involve what are called running bamboos.
Running bamboos. Okay, so they run.
Exactly. They have underground rhizomes that act almost like horizontal spears, just shooting aggressively outward in every direction to conquer new territory.
Oh, wow. So they really are invasive.
Yeah, they will absolutely swallow a pathway. Clumping bamboos, however, have a completely different underground mechanism.
How so?
Their root system is U-shaped. It grows a few inches outward and then immediately turns back up toward the surface to form a new cane right next to the original one.
Oh, I see.
So it stays tightly bound to its origin point.
So it naturally stays in its lane without you having to constantly fight it with a shovel.
Exactly. It creates a perfectly disciplined circle. And this introduces a brilliant structural solution to your overstuffed couch problem.
Okay, tell me more about that.
Well, think about the growth habit of a tree. A tree grows up and out, like a massive umbrella.
Right.
It consumes the horizontal space. But clumping bamboo grows strictly upward, like a pillar.
Oh, right. It's just vertical.
Yes, it gives you the architectural volume and the height of a lush green wall, but because it doesn't sprawl outward, it saves all that precious horizontal room for the person actually walking down the path.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me. So the goal of this design isn't to just use less greenery to save space. The goal is to use smarter greenery.
Smarter greenery, yes.
Because Aang writes that this specific plant is perfectly suited for narrow walkways, quote, while still providing a lush layer of greenery.
Right.
And reading that, it kind of feels like a paradox. The text specifically describes the foliage as thin and clustered. So how can something made of thin elements create an overall effect that is deeply lush?
The answer lies in how those thin elements are stacked together.
Okay.
With a traditional tree, you have large, singular leaves spreading out horizontally to catch the sun. This creates a dense, opaque, solid block of green.
Right, it's heavy visually.
But with clumping bamboo, the individual leaves are incredibly thin. They're almost blade-like or ribbon-like.
Yeah, they are very narrow.
If you held a single leaf in your hand, it would look completely insubstantial. But because thousands of these tiny ribbons are clustered tightly together all the way up that vertical pillar we just talked about, they overlap continuously.
Oh, so it's the volume of them.
Exactly. They create a profound sense of lushness through multiplicity rather than through sheer solid mass. It is visually dense, but it remains visually lightweight.
So you get all the psychological benefits of being completely surrounded by vibrant living nature, but your physical space hasn't been encroached upon at all.
Precisely.
The overstuffed couch is gone, and in its place is a beautifully woven, thin tapestry hanging flat against the wall.
I love that.
You get the rich texture of the fabric, but you get your entire hallway back. You can swing your arms, you can carry your groceries, you can breathe.
You maintain the kinetic freedom of the walkway. You are entirely free to move without feeling squeezed or threatened by bulky branches, yet you are still safely enveloped by a clearly defined, vibrant green boundary.
It's the best of both worlds.
From a purely structural standpoint, it is absolute spatial perfection for a transit corridor.
Well, having established that physical perfection, Aang's notes take a really fascinating turn.
Yeah, they really do.
The journal transitions away from the physical structural realm into something much more experiential. The text explicitly notes that the appeal of this bamboo isn't just visual. Aang writes that there is something inherently atmospheric about it, both visually and sonically.
Right. This specific observation elevates the text from standard practical gardening advice into the realm of true environmental psychology.
Yeah, it's deep.
If you look at mainstream landscape design, the entire discipline is almost exclusively dominated by sight.
It's all about how it looks.
Exactly. We obsess over color palettes, the blooming seasons of specific flowers, the heights of different shrubs, the visual shape of the leaves. It's treated almost entirely as a visual medium, like painting.
Sure.
But Aang pushes back against that limitation by elevating sound to an equal level of importance.
Okay. Yeah.
True atmospheric design recognizes that human beings experience a space with all of our senses simultaneously, not just our eyes.
And Aang points out that the leaves create a gentle rustling sound when the wind catches them.
Yes, the rustling.
I read that and immediately realized how often we treat gardens as silent movies. We expect them to look pretty, but we don't plan for what they will sound like. Aang is basically designing an organic white noise machine here.
Let's dig into the actual biomechanics of how that specific organic white noise is produced, because it connects perfectly back to the ribbon-like structure of the leaves we just discussed.
Oh, really? How so?
Think of a heavy oak leaf or a thick, waxy magnolia leaf, like a stiff piece of cardboard.
Okay, stiff cardboard.
When a gust of wind hits that stiff cardboard, it resists. It flaps loudly or it smacks harshly against the neighboring branches.
Right, it's clunky.
Exactly. It's a clattering, unpredictable noise. But bamboo leaves are like silk ribbons. They don't fight the wind, they stream alongside it.
Oh, wow.
And because they are clustered so tightly together on those vertical canes, those thousands of ribbons constantly brush against each other. They physically turn irregular, gusty wind into a sustained, continuous, sweeping hush.
I really want you listening to actively picture this scenario right now.
Yeah, visualize it.
Imagine stepping out of your car after a wildly stressful day at work. You're walking down a narrow green corridor leading to your front door. It's visually lush, but perfectly contained.
You're not fighting for space.
Right, you aren't ducking under branches. And instead of the dead, echoing silence of a concrete path, or the jarring, harsh sounds of neighborhood traffic and distant leaf blowers.
Ugh, the leaf blowers.
Always the leaf blowers. But instead of all that, the green walls around you are whispering. Every single time a breeze comes through, the pathway speaks to you.
The psychological impact of that whispering cannot be overstated.
Really, it's that powerful.
Yes. In environmental psychology, we know that a consistent, gentle, broadband sound, which is what rustling leaves or running water produce, acts as a highly effective acoustic buffer.
A buffer.
Your brain is wired to constantly scan your environment for sudden, sharp noises because sudden noises historically meant danger.
That makes total sense.
The roar of a passing truck or a neighbor shouting spikes your cortisol. But a continuous, gentle rustle masks those jarring, lower-frequency noises. It creates a literal bioacoustic wall.
A bioacoustic wall. That is fascinating.
By planting this specific foliage, Aang has engineered a private acoustic bubble for the person walking the path. The sound anchors your nervous system in the present moment, making you hyper-aware of the breeze and the immediate environment, rather than whatever stresses you brought home from the office.
It completely shifts the emotional energy of the walk.
Completely.
The transit corridor isn't just a utilitarian void to be crossed as fast as possible anymore. It becomes a destination in its own right. It acts as a mental palate cleanser before you even reach your front door.
It forces a physiological deceleration. Your heart rate slows down to match the environment.
And, if the shape of the leaves allows them to catch the wind in such a specific calming way, it makes total logical sense to look at how those exact same leaves interact with the other major element of the outdoors.
The sun.
The sun, exactly. Aang moves the journal entry naturally toward this final piece of the sensory puzzle, noting that the bamboo foliage filters the sun to produce a soft, dappled light.
The science behind why human beings find soft, dappled light so universally appealing is actually deeply rooted in our evolutionary past.
Oh, here we go. Tell me about this.
Think about the savanna hypothesis. Early humans felt most secure at the edges of forests, rather than deep inside them or entirely exposed on the open plains.
Okay.
In a transition zone where light is filtered through a light canopy, you have cover from above, but you still have enough visibility to see what is around you. It signals safety to our primal brain.
That makes perfect sense.
Now contrast that dappled light with the bulky, traditional trees we talked about at the beginning. A massive maple tree casts a heavy, dark, opaque shadow over a walkway.
It's very dramatic.
Yes, it creates a stark, high-contrast environment. You are either walking through the blinding, harsh glare of direct sunlight, or you are plunged into deep, heavy shade.
So what does this all mean for the moment-to-moment experience of walking down the path?
It means the bamboo is acting as an active, kinetic lens.
Kinetic lens.
Yeah, it is intercepting the sunlight rather than simply blocking it like a brick wall would. Those thousands of thin, overlapping leaves break a solid, harsh beam of sunlight into thousands of tiny individual fragments of light.
Wow.
And because we already established that those leaves are constantly moving with the slightest breeze, those fragments of light are constantly shifting and dancing across the pavement. The lighting isn't static. The path itself feels alive.
The vocabulary Ang chooses to describe this effect is so incredibly intentional.
Oh, absolutely.
Look at the specific words in the text. Filters, gentle, soft.
Yeah.
None of these are accidental descriptors. They all point toward a highly curated mood. Nothing in this environment is allowed to be harsh.
Right.
The plant isn't completely blocking the sun. It's filtering it into something manageable. The sound of the winds isn't a loud clatter. It's a gentle rustle. The light hitting your eyes isn't blinding or dark. It's soft.
We are looking at the very core of atmospheric design here.
Yeah, it all comes together.
Every single element we've discussed, the vertical spatial geometry that respects your elbow room, the acoustic profile that masks neighborhood noise, the dynamic lighting that signals safety to your brain is working in absolute harmony to soften the human experience.
It's so cohesive.
It removes the hard edges of reality.
Mm-hmm.
The unyielding hard edge of a concrete path is softened by the lush vertical boundary.
Yeah.
The jarring, hard sounds of the outside world are softened by the rustling leaves. The blazing, hard glare of the sun is softened into dappled light.
It's like Ang figured out how to apply a real-life physiological calming filter over a physical environment.
That's exactly it.
And this brings us to the culmination of Ang's entry.
Mm-hmm.
The journal wraps up this beautifully observant text by stating that when you combine all of these specific elements, they create an environment that is both calming and sensory-rich.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, Ang's 927th gardening note is proving a massive point about how we interact with our surroundings.
Okay, what's the takeaway?
Our internal state of mind is inextricably linked to our external physical environment.
Yes, 100%.
A lot of modern design assumes that to achieve a calming space, you must strip away all stimuli. You paint everything white, you remove all texture, you create an empty, sterile void.
For the minimalist look.
Exactly. But Ang argues the exact opposite. You achieve true calm by carefully curating the right kind of stimuli.
Not zero stimuli, just the right kind.
Exactly. When you intentionally combine physical boundaries that don't crowd us, lighting that feels evolutionarily safe, and acoustics that mask stressful noise, a calming state of mind isn't just possible, it is the inevitable biological result. It is a brilliant lesson in holistic, human-centric design.
It really makes you look at the mundane spaces you move through every single day with totally fresh eyes.
It does.
A path doesn't have to just be a path. It can be a tool for well-being.
A daily reset.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. We've unpacked the spatial brilliance, the sonic mechanisms, and the evolutionary psychology hidden inside just a few sentences of Ang's landscaping journal.
It's amazing what you can find in just one entry.
It really is. But before we sign off, we want to leave you with a final, unaddressed question to mull over. Something to take away from this kinetic, whispering pathway and apply to your own life.
Yeah, take this with you.
If Ang can transform a stressful outdoor walkway into a profoundly calming, sensory-rich environment simply by swapping out heavy, bulky trees for vertical, filtering, rustling bamboo, how might you apply this clumping bamboo philosophy to your indoor spaces or your daily routines? What bulky traditional trees, whether they're physical objects clogging your hallway or heavy obligations clogging your schedule, could be replaced by something that filters out the harshness, respects your space, and leaves you with a much calmer, dappled atmosphere?